Ball State Sports Link's Third Down Chirp is delivered by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. Visit papajohns.com today for more info.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another great episode of Third Down Chirp, delivered by Papa John's. I'm your host, Luke Martin, alongside Zach Hughes, Tyler Bradfield. Wow, I think that is the word to describe the weekend for the Ball State football team. Huge win in Charlottesville, Virginia, fellas.
Just a great win for this team, for the program. The first win for this program of an ACC team. A huge weekend to be Ball State.
What a win for Ball State. Not only it was on the road for the Cardinals. You know, I really enjoyed my trip down there to Charlottesville, Virginia with our executive producer, Drew Adamson. But what a win for the Cardinals.
What a win indeed. And as you can tell for our show today, we are themed today for breast cancer awareness throughout the whole month of October, especially for this show today. You can see the pink ticker below us throughout the show. We are themed today.
Yes.
We are very themed today for this big-time show. Well, it was a big-time win indeed. Let's relive that win in Charlottesville with our Sounds of the Game segment with Tyler Bradfield's calls from Ball State Sports Link Radio 91.3 WCRD.
Three right, one left, takes the snap, hands off Edwards. Edwards pushing the pile. Juwan Edwards got into the end zone from 1 yard out. He was tripped up as a 2, but he stretched forward. Watford takes the snap, hand off hard. Muscles his way in. Kevin Clark from just 3 yards out will strike for the Virginia Cavaliers. They have to get to the 5-yard line, winning back the pass. He throws end zone. Willie Snead breaks it down in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Ball State! 4-man front for Ball State on third down. Watford back to pass, and he's picked off. Jeffrey Garrett picked him off. And he takes the snap, hands off to Juwan, has a hole, cuts it up to the 30, 25-20, still going to the 15, to the 10, angling to the sideline at the 5, to the goal line, touchdown! Juwan Edwards from 32 yards out with a good run, goes for a touchdown. Winning from the shotgun, takes the low snap, fakes the handoff, drops the pass, he's under some pressure, he airs one out near side, it's Jordan Williams, bringing it over the shoulder to the 30, 25-20, and it's open grass to the 10 to the 5, touchdown Ball State. The Ball State Cardinals, 48. The Virginia Cavaliers, 27. The Ball State Cardinals come on the road to Charlottesville, Virginia, and get a win in ACC country.
The Cardinals pick up win number 4 against a BCS foe under head coach Pete Limbo, and they do it by 21 points. And why not add this on to it? They were without Willie Snead and other key players throughout the good chunk of the game. We caught up with head coach Pete Limbo this week and asked him what was so impressive about that upset win in Charlottesville.
Well, just the effort for 60 minutes and the ability to handle adversity. The guys that stepped up, whether those be small roles or big roles, and playing such a relatively mistake-free game, creating 4 turnovers, not having any ourself. 1 penalty compared to 13 for Virginia. You just can't underestimate how important those things are in defeating a team that clearly was more talented than we were. Yeah, our staff is really like a big family, and our 2 coordinators have been with me 8 years and 9 years. And our staff, for the most part, has been intact since we got here. We've only lost 1 assistant coach each season. So it is a tight-knit group. The families themselves are tight-knit. And, you know, a lot of people don't appreciate how much time we spend together and how close the group comes and how much time and effort goes into every little decision you make as a staff. So when you get some great results like we did against Virginia, it's just very, very satisfying.
Huge thanks to Coach Limbo. As always great to catch up with the head man in charge here at Ball State. Well, now we got a new segment here on Third Down Chirp. It's called the National Spotlight, and this is not when we look at other games. Ball State is on the national radar after that big win over Virginia, and we caught up with lead college football writer for CBS Sports, Bruce Feldman, and here's his thoughts on the rebuilding job that Coach Limbo has been doing in Muncie, Indiana.
Two years before he arrived, they were 6-18 for those 2 seasons. And, you know, you talk to coaches in the ACC, and they'll tell you Virginia is one of the most imposing-looking teams, and Ball State went into Virginia with a team of a lot of guys who only had one FBS offer, and that was Ball State, and it's starting 3 walk-ons, and they dominated Virginia. And to the point, the way they did, you know, UVA's defense had played quite well up till seeing Ball State. I mean, that was a performance that I think, you know, should be like kind of a warning shot to a lot of people outside of the MAC, just how good of a staff this is and what they've done and how the players have bought in there.
Huge thanks for Bruce Feldman taking time out of his busy schedule to talk some Ball State football for a national guy. Always thanks, huge thanks to Bruce Feldman for taking time. All right, guys, now it's time to go through our opening drive for our 3 main headlines for the win over Virginia. Zach, let's start with you. What stood out about that huge win in Charlottesville?
Well, we've kind of been talking about it a lot, and we referred to it last week, but this is a coach's dream team that Ball State has here. If you look at the Virginia game, Virginia had 4 turnovers, Ball State had 0. And then the penalties. Virginia had 13 penalties for 93 yards, and Ball State only had 1 for 15 yards. There was a huge play in that game, an 81-yard touchdown pass, but it got called back for Virginia because they had an ineligible receiver downfield, one of the linemen downfield. So just a huge turning point of that game. And on the season, Ball State's only committed 22 penalties for 180 yards. Their opponents, 56 for 486. So just a huge difference in penalties and turnovers this season.
I like how you bring up that's not only been a big point in their win last week against Virginia, but it has all season. But what stood out to me against Virginia was Ball State got great real estate. What I mean by real estate is field position. They started at in Virginia's territory in the second half 4 times. Of those 4, all 4 of them led to some form of score. They started at the 38-yard line. They started at the 39 twice. They started at the 48 once. All 4 resulted in score. And it's a big reason why they outscored the Cavaliers 31-10 in the second half, Luke.
And another big reason, Tyler and Zach, that Ball State was able to get this win was they played Cardinal football. Coach Limbo, when he came in here, he says, what is Ball State football? That was the biggest question mark. Saturday in Virginia, that was Ball State football. And the reason for it was stepping up, persevering. Willie Snead out for the second half. Martez Hester, Ben Ingle, Chris Callaway out on defense. Connor Ryan, Kevon Mabon, 2 top receivers. Connor Ryan played in the game, but in a very limited action. Kevon Mabon, he's out for the year. And not to mention Jeffrey Garrett, who had a big interception in the game. He was out for a small portion of the game. And Stephen Bell on the offensive line was out for a portion of the game. And they dominated an ACC team with a lot of backups in the game, guys that only had one major offer, which was the Ball State Cardinals. Well, campus is buzzing right now about this Ball State football team, and Zach Hughes went out on campus and caught up with some students, and now they're in our roles a little bit. They asked Coach Limbo and other players questions that were on their mind.
My question's for Coach Limbo. I was just kind of curious, if he were to score a touchdown, what his celebration would be.
Oh, well, you don't want to see me dance. You don't want to see me sing. So playing within the rules of the game, I'd probably look for my teammates to celebrate with and do some kind of huddle with them, because I think anything else would just expose my inadequacies.
Hi, my question's for Brian Jones. What is your ideal first date?
Horse carriage ride, you know, probably downtown, see the scenery, the lights and stuff like that, nice dinner, a movie, then a nightcap. and that's about it.
My question's for Keith Winning. In my college football video game, you had 6 touchdowns, 450 yards against Kent State. Am I going to be expecting the same kind of performance?
I hope so. And that'd be awesome if that happened. But you know, I'm going to take it one play at a time, and whatever happens in the game happens.
Huge thanks to all of the Ball State fans, the students that asked those questions. Come on, Coach Limbo. Coach Limbo can dance. I saw him do the Limbo leap at Virginia when Jawan got a touchdown. Coach Limbo, you can dance. You can dance just a little bit, Coach. Well, I don't think Coach Limbo is going to be on our halfway concerns, guys, but let's go ahead and talk about those halfway concerns for the football team so far as we are halfway through the season. Zach, what's kind of worrying you a little bit if you say right now for Ball State?
Well, it's kind of hard to be worried about anything. They're 5-1, so take this with a grain of salt, but it's the secondary play. They're playing well right now, but big plays can really kill a team. So I mentioned that UVA 81-yard touchdown pass. If that doesn't get called back, that's a big momentum swing. So if the secondary can keep playing well, but what if the turnovers stop happening? What happens if the turnovers go away? Can this team make stops and make key plays when they need to? And it's just my concern halfway through the year.
It's hard to point out an obvious concern when you're playing so well right now. 5-1, they're off to their best start since 2008. The offense is playing great, the defense is playing solid, but my biggest concern right now is, can they keep this pace up? And Luke, I'll compare it to kind of a cross-country runner. Throughout the course of a cross-country race, a cross-country runner is so concerned with their pacing, not just in one race, but over the course of a season. You don't want to peak too soon. Are they peaking too soon? That's the only concern that I can really fathom up right now. Is this Ball State off to too hot of a start? Can they continue this type of play up?
For me, the biggest concern is, I said how it was a positive. You don't want to keep getting these injuries. That is for sure. Ball State right now, they are hurting from an injury perspective. Yes, it's nice that you can win without a Ben Engle. It's nice you can win without those guys, a Martez Hester, a Kevon Mavon, a Connor Ryan. But let's not lose anymore. We've talked about that great depth for Ball State on this show all year long. It's getting tested. I know Coach Limbo is enjoying having all those guys step up and play well, but he wants his main guys getting back into the football game and playing well and staying in the game and doing a good job. And what a job indeed those reserves have done. But let's get rid of that injury bug like a week ago, killing that injury bug for the Cardinals. Well, now let's meet the Golden Flashes. Let's get away of that Virginia game. It was a huge win. Now focus on this game this weekend, homecoming here in Muncie, Indiana. And this Kent State team, last year, you know, they made it to Detroit in the MAC championship game, but that was with Darrell Hazel. But he is now at Purdue in his first year, taking over that job. Paul Haynes is the new head coach out there in Kent, Ohio. They'll be traveling all the way to Schumann this weekend. The Flashes have they have one of the most electrifying football players in the country, and Dre Archer. He can do it on kickoffs. He can do it on the special teams like I just mentioned, but also offensively as well. He is a huge weapon. And fellas and Cardinal fans, do not be fooled by their record. They may be 2-4, but this Kent State team, they played a lot of tough teams. Like they went down and played a team called LSU in Baton Rouge. That's a pretty tough schedule. Well, let's go ahead and see about this Kent State team and talk to the guys that it's their job to beat Kent State and scout Kent State, I should say, with our third down chirp scouting report. As we talk to Brian Jones on defense, defensive coordinator Jay Bateman, and offensively, offensive coordinator Rich Skrosky, and quarterback Keith Winning.
We got a lot of challenges against them, but it all starts with Archer, because he gets the ball in space now. He's hard to handle, so we got to do a good job keeping him covered. But yeah, I don't think we've been as great in the run game as we need to be the last couple of weeks against more spread run teams. So, because it's going to be hard enough to deal with Archer without giving him extra downs, So we can't give him waste downs. We can't give him second and shorts a whole bunch, and we got to establish that we're going to stop the run.
They have some great athletes. Drew Archer, they have a great running back. They have a great team as a whole. I think this week, we're going to focus a lot on the fundamentals and getting things done properly, and I think it should be a good game Saturday.
This Knicks kid is, and he's on track to do it. But I think somewhere I read if he's all conference this year, it'll be the first time in the history of the MAC where a kid has been first team all conference 4 years in a row. He's got my vote now. I could give it to him, and they do a great job with him. They move him around. He's not always in the same spot, so you got to make sure you know where to find him.
And their defensive line's pretty good. And they have some talented guys on their defense. They fly around to the ball, so we're gonna have to do what we've been doing all year. Using our techniques, just playing sound offense and making plays when they present themselves.
Huge thanks to all the Ball State players and coaches for taking time and getting us ready for the Kent State Golden Flashes. Well, one guy that had a great weekend in Charlottesville, we've talked about throughout the show, was Jeffrey Garrett. Had a big interception in that game that really turned the momentum in that second half of the football game down there in Charlottesville, Virginia. We caught up with Jeffrey and asked him what his life is like outside of Schumann Stadium.
My name is Jeff Garrett from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm a senior. My passion for football came from my uncles. You know, they came here, went to Ball State, you know, started and stuff like that. And I started when I was like 8 years old. My grandma brought me to flag football, and from there, it went from middle school to high school. My favorite memory was Pee Wee football. I scored like 49 touchdowns in like 12 games, so that was pretty cool, and it's a record back home. My idol was my uncles. You know, I try to be like them. You know, they went to the same high school. I wore their jersey number, and I came here like they did and played for Ball State. Coach Dixon, he's my mentor. He's the one that recruited me, you know, coached me through, you know, my first 3 years here. And, you know, when time comes, you know, I can talk to him about anything. It's been a very great experience. You know, I love the campus, I love the community, Muncie in general, and it's a fun time.
Huge thanks to Jeffrey Garrett for taking time to talk to us here on Third Down Chirp for his Slice of Life segment. Hopefully he can have another great game this weekend, and he's going to be a big factor in that game, but let's see if any of these guys picked him for their X factor this weekend. Guys, huge game this weekend, Schumann Stadium, homecoming, going to be a big crowd. Operation 20K for the Ball State Athletics folks, trying to get 20,000 fans for the game. But let's focus on the action on the field. Zach, who's your X factor?
Well, I kind of feel like I'm cheating choosing this player because he's been playing so well, and it's kind of obvious that he's going to continue to play well. But Juwan Edwards, for me, he's my X factor. He leads the nation right now in rushing touchdowns with 10 rushing touchdowns. He's had 3 straight games coming off that injury with 3 rushing touchdowns in each of those games. And Kent State last week, and when you look at this matchup, Kent State gave up 454 yards rushing against NIU last week. So I just think if Juwan Edwards can control the line and run and relieve Keith Winning a little bit of the pressure, because we know Keith Winning can throw the ball around and kind of do whatever he wants. It seems like he has been this whole season. But if Juwan Edwards can rush and get maybe 200 yards plus and maybe a couple more touchdowns, I think that'll be crucial for a win.
Well, Zach, you alluded to my X factor, and that is Keith Winning, the quarterback. And you said that he is playing extremely well right now, and that he is. He's second in the country in passing yards, but he has to continue to play well, and that's why I'm going to name him as my X factor. He's passed above 300 yards in every single game this year. He's the only quarterback at the FBS level to do that. Now, look, he has to continue to play at the high level. Kent State has a very good pass defense. They're halfway decent within the Mid-American Conference, 6th in the MAC in pass defense. But what did Keith Winning do last year against this Golden Flashes team? His numbers, 74% completion, 445 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If he can have that type of performance, I know it's hard and easier said than done, things look good for the Cardinals.
And the Ball State defense is much improved than it was a year ago, because that was a shootout out there in Kent, Ohio. Juwan Edwards, Keith Winning, X factors, that was really hard, wasn't it, for these guys? That's why I'm going with Scott Secor. You know, coming into the season, many people were wondering how they're going to replace Steven Schott, Scott Cavanda on specialties from a punt standpoint. Secor's really done a good job. Had a rough go-around in the Illinois State game starting off early, missing that extra point, but he's done a good job. Had a huge field goal against Virginia, the 45-yarder, which put Ball State up by 10. Huge for him, but it was the squib kicking. Virginia, early on in that game, their offense was getting momentum by those long special teams returns, those kickoff returns that gave the Virginia offense in good field position. Ball State was able to get in good field position. But Secor is going to be big this week, not just because of his kicking, not just because of the field goals are important and every point is important. It's going to be that guy by the name of Archer. Kick away from him. You know, I don't know much about football, but I know kick it away. You know, you don't want to kick it at Dre Archer, because if you do, he's going to make some plays. As last year, he had a kickoff return for a touchdown in Kent, Ohio. I don't have to remind Coach Limbo and the coaching staff of that. They know how dangerous he can be. Well, let's go ahead and go through our final drive. It is that time to go through our game time predictions. And let's start off with one. It is Bowling Green. They travel to Mississippi State. Big game here, guys. Who do you have? Do you have the Falcons and Matt going to beat an SEC foe?
I don't think so. I think all I need to say is that IU killed Bowling Green at home, and I think IU is a decent Big Ten team, and you're going on the road to an SEC team. I like Mississippi State in this one.
See, this is my favorite part of the show because we get to agree, we get to disagree, and I'll go the opposite. I'll go Bowling Green. I know you bring up the IU game, but I think Bowling Green, I think this is the upset of the week. Like Ball State was against Virginia last week, Bowling Green offense, I could see them putting together some sort of big game and pulling out again a win against Mississippi State.
Last time I picked Bowling Green against a big name opponent was IU. What'd they do? They got beat by 30 plus. Forget about you, Bowling Green. I am going with Mississippi State. The Bulldogs win. Now watch. Probably the Falcons are going to win because Bradfield picked them this week. But Mississippi State gets the win. Second game on the docket, Akron at Northern Illinois. Huskies, they played Kent State a week ago, and it was a good game. Can the Akron Zips get a huge win, Zach?
All right, well, call me crazy, you guys, but I'm going with the Zips.
You're crazy.
I'm tired of just staying one game ahead of you in our little rankings that we have in this game. So I'm going Zips on the road against number 23 in the country, Northern Illinois. They played Michigan well in the Big House. We'll see if it happens.
I won't call you crazy. I picked Bowling Green over Mississippi State, an SEC team. But, you know, I could see it. Akron played extremely well against Michigan. They got to play that style of game at Northern Illinois to get some form of a win, but I don't see that happening. I'm going to take number 23, Northern Illinois in this one.
Can you hear that, Phil? That's all the Akron Zip fans going crazy in Akron, Ohio for Zach Hughes' prediction. But now they're going to boo. I got Northern Illinois. I think the Huskies pull out the win. They are really good. It's going to be a great showdown in November. But we got to hold on. We got to hold on a bit. But Northern Illinois gets the win this week. Now the big-time football game, Kent State, Ball State, homecoming. Huge game for everybody. Huge game for both teams. If you remember last year, Ball State got a huge win against South Florida. BCS team, what happens the next week? They lose. Who was it against? Kent State. Coach Limbo's been reminding them of that all week. Do the Flashes beat the Cardinals again, Zach?
Well, when we were looking at the season as a whole during our first episode, I marked this matchup as my matchup to watch for the season. You look at Kent State. They come in, they're 2-4. You alluded to it earlier, Luke. But they've had a tough schedule on the road at LSU, number 8 in the country at the time, at Penn State versus Northern Illinois. Those aren't easy games. And so their schedule just kind of shows that they haven't played any easy teams. They've got the 2 wins. Drew Archer, you've talked about him a lot, and they have a kind of a stout defensive line. But I think Ball State, they won't lose again until Northern Illinois. I think we're going to get a showdown in DeKalb when that game comes around. The offense scores, I believe. The defense makes key stops for Ball State, as we've talked about. I like Ball State in this one in a little bit of a rout, 45-24. I think they get it done in the third quarter because Ball State really is a second-half team.
Well, the one thing that does scare me about Kent State from a Ball State perspective is the returner injury Archer. He's only played in 3 games this year. The first game, he got injured. Then he made an appearance in the first quarter against LSU. And then last week, of course, he had 1 kick return, 100 yards against Northern Illinois, and it went for a touchdown. That's the biggest concern Ball State-wise, but I think the Cardinals are simply too hot right now. 36-21, they'll get the victory.
I think a big reason why Ball State is going to get this win, fellas, is because of last year. They remember. These guys definitely remember what happened in Kent, Ohio. And it was a good game. Remember, you think Brandon Newman, he gets that tipped interception. Then they go to Connor Ryan for the touchdown. And at that point, you think Ball State, not necessarily on cruise control, but Kent State, they even had a couple 4th down conversions on that final drive to eventually kick the game-winning field goal over there in Kent, Ohio. And it was a great game. But I just think Ball State, like you said, Tyler and Zach, they're playing so well right now. But at the same time, that probably makes you want to think not to pick them because they're playing so well. But also, I think you got to go back to that trip to Denton, Texas. I know it's frustrating a lot of people that your only loss is the North Texas right now, but maybe if they don't lose that game, they don't beat Virginia on the road and don't have that same hunger, that same attitude to go on the road and get a huge win. In saying that, through all that hoopla, what is my prediction? I have the Cardinals winning 38-24. Going to be a great crowd at Schumann Stadium Saturday. Are you guys excited to be at Schumann Stadium Saturday?
I'm excited.
I'm super excited, and I can't wait till it's 38-24 there in the closing stretches. Ball State adds the TD, and I get the score right. So we'll see.
We will see what happens. It should be an exciting time. Come on out to Schumann Stadium this weekend, as it should be a great ball game. That's going to do it for Third Down Chirp this week. Remember, we are on social media for everything in Ball State sports. Be sure to go to Facebook and like Ball State Sports Link on Facebook by searching Ball State Sports Link. And we are also on Twitter as well. Just search @BSU Sports Link. And for Third Down Chirp updates, do @Third Down Chirp. For our great producers, and Drew Adamson and Alex Seitz, for the real talent of the show here to my left, Zach Hughes, Tyler Bradfield, I'm Luke Martin saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week.
A tight game with Ball State, the more they feel like they have to do something right now. The big tight end right there, Jake McGee, just needs to hold on to the ball.
Well, we've seen him drop a pass already today. That's